Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Survivor's Paradise. I am Paula Hughes Ilochi. My background, I just want to just tell you a little bit about myself. My background is in behavioral health. I spent the past few years working with domestic abuse survivors, as well as survivors of narcissistic abuse. And what's very interesting about that is during my time servicing the community, I myself was actually being abused while I was helping others who were also being abused. So I learned a lot about the things that I was going through while talking to my clients. So I'm currently actually still going through soon a divorce. So I'm still overcoming. But through my healing, I've found it very necessary to talk to others so that they don't end up in the same position that I found myself in. So I'm very excited to continue on this journey with you guys and to learn and to educate throughout this process.
And I'm Shay Lorick of Shay Lorick Transformational Coaching and Therapy. I am a clinical social worker by day, I guess you could say. And I too am a survivor of narcissistic abuse. As Paula has expressed, working with this population every day and, coming across different individuals who are struggling with different things, it became really ironic that I too was struggling with my own trauma, with my own experience with a narcissistic individual that kind of brought us together in a sense, well, not in a sense, like the narcissist introduced us to one another a couple of years ago. And so we hadn't really spoke since then. Paula and I, we were friends on Facebook and different social media outlets. But it's just funny how once I left my marriage, I started to really be outspoken about my experiences and to bring awareness to narcissistic abuse, and that really, I guess, sparked us to come together and to begin to share our experiences with one another. And we've been kind of joined at the hip ever since then, and we decided that we would kind of partner and create a channel in order to really spread awareness, to really tell our story, and so that people like us and other, in other places, in other cities, in other towns, even men that are going through this will be able to recognize the signs and the red flags that we kind of missed or ignored as we were going and connecting and dating. And so, here we are to just really move forward with this thing.
Yes, and before we get started, I want to put a disclaimer out there that I have my 17-month-old who is, so you might hear a little bit of a baby in the background, but hey, there are moms out there dealing with this too, so I will try to keep him out the picture. All right.
Might have to have a little cameo.
I know he's trying to get in the picture, but yeah. I'm not trying to let him get in the picture. So
I don't know. I think we should just start this thing off with kind of telling a little bit about like how we got here, how you and I came together.
I agree. He made his way in. Yeah. So what I find very interesting is that when we first met, I was actually in the love bombing stage. So we had been dating for 6 months at the time. before I got a flight out that I didn't have to pay for, that I was super excited about. So I got a flight out to Europe. And we were traveling around, visiting country to country, and then that's how we met. So you were a little bit further along in your relationship, well, a lot bit further along in your relationship than I was, and you already had 2 children too. So, and I'm gonna get out the picture for a second too.
Yeah. So you were you engaged at that time?
No, I was not engaged. We were talking about marriage though.
Okay. And so I was married, of course. I had been married for probably 5 years by the time I met you. So I had a very developed experience at that point, too developed experience with all the things that we'll talk about later. But from your perspective, you tell me that you couldn't see that. You couldn't see. You were shocked when you found out what I was going through just this year or last year.
Yeah, I couldn't see a lot of it because we didn't stay. When I was there, you were at work a lot. So I didn't see you guys interact very often. And then the time we all interacted as a couple, we were at like a winery or wine tour. So we were in situations where it wouldn't have been evident what was going on. So I'm trying to think back on it, but I don't think other than I remember leaving saying, wow, they seem like a really great couple.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely didn't see anything.
Right. I think that's just how insidious it really is. I mean, it's a really hidden abuse, if you would say. And I think we will start to kind of compare it to what people talk about when they talk about domestic violence. Here in contrast, because really, I don't think a lot of people could see it at all from the outside. Actually, I don't think anybody could see it from the outside because, first of all, I think I did a lot to make sure that he had a good image and we were together, and even though
you learn to manage your behavior very early on.
Exactly. Yeah. And so even on social media, we were like the perfect couple. We were traveling, living in Europe, living our best life before everybody. And so everybody was always like, how do we do what you're doing? And, it was like that whole goals type, couples goals type thing that we were portraying at the time.
So one thing that I find very interesting is, and I think we should probably just do like a quick overview of the difference between narcissistic abuse and what can just not simply, I don't want to take anything away from that, but what could also be domestic violence. So the interesting thing about narcissistic abuse is there's a very distinct pattern. So if you notice in the beginning, we talked about how I was in the love bombing stage. So, Shay, you're way better at explaining the love bombing stage. Could you talk about what that means and what that is?
Yeah.
Because that's very important. We were at different stages, but still we were, it's a cycle.
Yes. I think in domestic violence circles, what they call the honeymoon stage. And love bombing consists of just, you're just so infatuated with the new person. The perpetrator is loving and dotes on you and really just chases after you, and you're the best thing that ever happened to them. And, you can do no wrong, and you're this, and you're wonderful, and you're magnificent, and you're beautiful, and you are just the love of their life, and they want to marry you quickly, and they know immediately that you're their wife or their husband, and it's just a time in which you as the soon-to-be victim feels like, oh my God, this person is just, they really love me, or they're going out of their way to see me all the time. They want to spend as much time as they want, or they can with me. And so you really begin to feel like really nothing you've ever experienced before. You know, I've been in relationships where I've known that people, you know, loved me or liked me, but there's really no comparing the love bombing stage to anything else you've ever experienced before. They really put you on a pedestal, and it's like the higher they take you, the harder
you fall. And it's so quick. I remember thinking I did not have a chance to have doubt because I've never had a moment to myself. I mean, we were constantly texting, constantly on the phone. And I know in the beginning stages of relationships, there is that infatuation stage. So it's not uncommon. The difference being we were in a long distance relationship, and 6 months into it, we were already discussing marriage, and I was already flown to Europe to meet a married couple, you know, who, so in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm meeting friends. I'm like, you know, I'm leaving, it's being paid for. Everything seems so great. But even within that romantic trip, there were moments when I felt alone. And that started very, very early on. The whole Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, as we call it, started very, very early. I mean, when I think back on it, there were moments that we would argue. And typically it had to do with another woman. You know, social media. Social media was a big thing. This person was very, very into social media. But what was interesting is a post would be on there every day, 3-4 posts, but I was never in the post. But I told myself, oh, well, I'm private too. You know, I don't really want people in my business either. You start to justify why you're not involved. You know, they're so involved in your life, but you have very little access to their life. And for me, I didn't notice that until later, because whenever I brought it up, it was almost as if it were, you know, oh, you're just, you know, jealous, or you're just, you know, you don't have anything to worry about. So yeah, it starts really, really fast, and then you look up and you're like, what happened? So definitely the love bombing was the phase that I was in. So.
Yeah, and it's just like you don't even really have a choice for most of what happens in the car. It's just like, oh, we're gonna do this. Oh, we're gonna start being exclusive now.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna.
How long did it take before you guys were exclusive?
So our story was kind of funny. It took us longer to become exclusive, I think, than maybe you guys. However, we got married within 10 months of each other. So in the grand scheme of things, everything happened really quickly.
Yeah.
I will say though that even before I was considering us exclusive. We were doing most of the things that exclusive people would do. And so we were spending all this time together. You know, I wasn't necessarily really talking to, I maybe had 1 or 2 guys I was talking to, but I was spending all of my time with him. I remember at one point, because he was in college at the time he was living, his apartment was in his town, so he was about an hour and so away from me. I remember that summer, he basically just moved over into my house and didn't even ask. One day he came over and spent the night and just never left. And I'm just like, you need to go home. And he's like, he never went home. So there was a lot, like you said, that happened with women early on. And a lot of red flags. Just kind of
red flags.
Well, you know, I'm not really dating him, so maybe I can't say anything, or, you know, I know he likes me enough that this won't last, or I don't know, for whatever reason, I didn't necessarily speak on it. So that first couple of months that we were spending time together, you know, I was noting all of this. He was in the hospital at one point, went to the hospital, and all these women were there. And I'm just like, I was sitting there, like, okay. I was not comfortable at all.
Yeah.
I didn't really say a lot about it because, again, we weren't exclusive. So then we got to maybe 3 or 4 months. Yeah, maybe 3 months into it, and we were at an event. He had a singing group. We were at an event, and pretty much all the people that were in the singing group seemed to be infatuated with him. And so I was kind of like the target that they were looking at because he was, you know, doting on me, and, you know, we had rode together, and we had to stop by his place, and everybody had to go in and change clothes, and I had the key. And so, you know, all these people were like giving me the side eye, and I'm like, you know, at that point I was kind of fed up. And there was a situation that night that happened with one of the women, I guess, that they have been talking on the side. I mean, he kind of had the feeling that he was spending most of his time with me. Like, why are you really giving all these people, you know, pretty much pumping them up to think that they have a chance? And so she made a big scene with him, and they got in the car, and he was talking to her, and I'm just standing there, I'm talking to his best friend, like, what the hell? And he's in the car, I guess, consoling her, telling her to go home, or whatever he's telling her, and then he gets out and tells me, oh, I told her to go home, and I cut it off. Little did I know, later on he would tell me the true story, and we'll get to that too, because they tell off on themselves all the time.
So let me just stop here, because I know you guys who are watching this are probably like, you put up with that? So let's talk about why you put up with that. Like, you know, like at the time, were you thinking that you're putting up with something, or were you thinking, you know, what were you thinking? I'm interested.
I didn't. So after that situation, I actually cut him off. And I said, you know, I can't deal with all your women. I'm not into, like, I'm spoiled, really. So, like, having the extra, I don't share, and I don't agree with all of these different, I'm not going to be in drama and having to fight potentially and all of this. So I'm just going to pull myself out of the situation. So to answer your question, I didn't put up with it at that time.
Yeah, because it's so crazy looking back on it, you know, hearing your story and things. It's like so many people, I'm sure, on the outside looking in are like, what? I would have left then. Yeah. But it's not that simple. And we're going to talk into that, you know, we're going to talk about that soon, but that's absolutely crazy. I didn't even know you dealt with it. I didn't know that happened.
I have stories more. You remember I was with this person for almost 9 years. So yeah. I have, and the thing about these relationships and these narcissistic people, they're so chaotic that drama. And they don't even need an audience to have drama. They're just drama.
Well, and the thing is, we accept that drama soon. So by the time it gets out of control and ridiculous, it was already getting to that point. But you know, for me, I didn't have situations as big as yours that early on, but I remember seeing, you know, social media posts that were not appropriate for someone who would be dating, and I didn't see him check it, but he also didn't delete it. So when I would bring it up, he would say, yeah, I left that there just so that you could see that I'm not trying to hide anything, because if I were to delete it, you know, then you would think I'm hiding something. And you know, the crazy thing, I remember telling myself, well, if it's really something crazy, someone will probably reach out to me. Yeah. I was waiting for someone to reach out to me to say, hey, your boyfriend is this, that, and that. Like, that's ridiculous, but yeah.
It is. It's crazy. And you're basically being conditioned to tolerate things. And what I mean by that is that they slowly kind of see how you're going to respond,
how far you'll go.
And when you don't, they know, they say, oh, okay, she's going to be okay with this, or she's at least not going to leave me over this. Or
well, and the crazier the situation and the faster you get past it or get over it, you start to form a bond with them. You start to form this traumatic bond with them where you're going to your abuser for healing and for, you know, some kind of covering when they're the person who's not protecting you. That was the main thing I felt very early on, was that I was not protected. But he would tell me that I was. So the words and the actions didn't match up, but I'll be honest with you, I was 31 and I knew some friends who were getting married and having kids, who already had kids. And I was like, hey, I mean, he's more consistent than some of the people I was dating. I gotta hurry up. But one thing I learned, and I will tell anyone, it's better to wait than to rush and still have to wait. You know, and after. So yeah, that's one just word of advice I give out there.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because we need to talk about, because we're talking about, you know, the red flags that they put out, but you need to know the warning signs within yourself. And warning signs are like those internal things that are glaring, that you see within yourself, to say, I probably shouldn't even be connecting with someone right at this point, because I have too many things that I need to still heal within myself.
Right.
I was like 27 years old. I was coming, I had been divorced. Was married one time before, been divorced for like 18 months. And it wasn't a divorce that I wanted. I was, there was infidelity in that marriage, repeated infidelity. And so, the person divorced me and married somebody else. And so I'm kind of just out there. I had been married for 7 years at that point. So it's just like, you're in a situation where you don't even want to be divorced. And so my desire and my craving was to be married again. And that's the only, my mission was to be married. And so I really think that set me up. I set myself up for failure because I was looking for love outside of myself and realized that I needed to heal within and not be looking for a husband to do that for me. And so when this person came into my life and started with the love bombing, it was just what that craving needed to be satisfied.
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny you say that, because I had just ended a situation where I found out the person I was dating was not faithful and was not, forthcoming with everything. So I'm thinking we're exclusive. I'm thinking that we're on a path to, something eventually more serious. And I found out that wasn't the case. So I had just come out of something that wasn't good either, wasn't healthy either. So when I found someone who was what I thought forthcoming, very open, was giving me all the attention that I lacked in that last relationship, I was like, this is it. It was so opposite that I was like, this has to be it.
Yeah.
And even though I was sitting across from people telling me different things that were going on in their lives that matched exactly what I was dealing with, I told myself it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
So, the interesting thing about this kind of abuse is, I don't care how many degrees you have. I don't care how smart you are, what you've experienced. If you allow these types of people to get into your head and to get into your mind, and because that's so not your nature, you will continuously give them the benefit of the doubt, even when they have proven time and time again they don't deserve it.
Right.
So for me, I was working with people on them setting boundaries, and I had no boundaries because I took myself out of the equation. because I'm like, oh no, I know what to look for. And honestly, I remember telling myself, well, if he doesn't hit me, then it's not really abuse, and that is not true. So, yeah, I think it's so important to talk about, we're seeing here what stage we were in, because they pick a certain type of person. They pick a certain type of person. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be looking for something that you don't feel quite complete within yourself in, and they almost sense that or smell it, and it's like they know they got you. So that's why they're comfortable doing that kind of stuff so early on, because if you're anything like me, our first date was like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
My first date was so long, and I remember saying, I've never talked to anyone that long. Well, little did I know, this person was getting enough information to figure me out.
Yeah.
And knew I exposed myself.
Yeah. You were being interviewed.
I was being interviewed. And it's not to say that you cannot be open and honest, but be mindful. If you're sharing things and then I would turn around and ask the same question, and all of a sudden it's like, well, I have this memory issue. I can't remember. It's not important. I don't want to talk about it. Or everyone was crazy. Run. Everyone can't be crazy. Because you're going to be the next crazy person. When it ends, and it will end. So.
Yeah. There's a YouTuber on here that I listen to quite a bit, and he talks about queen consciousness, and he talks about narcissism, and his advice is that when you're starting to date someone, shut your mouth. Stop.
That's a word right there. That's a word.
You interview, you ask the questions, and just listen to what they have to say. Stop giving them all this feedback about you and telling them your whole life story. And I can remember that. Like, our first date was also this long, extended, interview of just asking me question after question after question after question. And here I am, just answering the question, being nice, being open, thinking I'm being honest, and that wasn't the case. They were just getting information that they could use against you. To use against you over and over and over, and even throughout.
And it was used.
Yeah. Everything that I've ever said really has been used against me.
Same. So, and mine was almost immediate when I look back on it.
And so we really, again, those warning signs of, that desire to be loved. And I'm not saying that we don't desire to be in a partnership, and we don't desire to have connection with a romantic partner. But when you're desperate for love, you're putting yourself at risk of being of being preyed upon. When you're right out of a relationship, you're jumping from another relationship, you really haven't healed those parts of you that are still sore or still raw. You're putting yourself at risk because you're not really in the headspace to make the right choices. I remember so many times that I ignored that feelings, even just because I wanted to be loved, just because I felt like I wanted to be in a marriage, in a relationship. I wanted my children to have, a father that was there for them. And really all of that created a hellstorm, created the perfect storm for me to be groomed into behaviors that I would never accept, into accepting behaviors that I would never accept.
Yeah, I remember at the point I was on very, very well in my career, and I remember saying to a friend, crying, like, the only thing that I don't have is a family. Like, I do so well in my career, I do so well with, X, Y, and Z, but if only I can get that family. And I put too much emphasis on that, and that energy I put out attracted something, but wasn't necessarily what I needed. but I'm learning that now, and I'm understanding that now, and I'm learning that it was something that I just had to. There was a bigger issue, and it was boundaries. I mean, if you have boundaries, you're likely not. You're going to see through that stuff.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to say, "Hey, I didn't like when you made that joke about what I shared with you,
Absolutely.
in private. I shared with you that, let's say my dad was an alcoholic, and then you jokingly bring up, oh, you're drinking, you're trying to be like your dad. And I'm not saying that happened. My dad is not, but those would be the types of jokes that would come up from some type of truth that I shared. So, and it came up early. So I really, intro video is really not a clear, direct format, because I think that when we're looking at these types of people, it's very chaotic and it's all over the place. So a lot of times we just need to focus on taking back, like, okay, what's the beginning? And even the beginning, as you can see, is so convoluted. There's so much beginning. Like, I could be honest, I could be here for hours, but if you're here because you're either going through it, you're not sure if you're going through it, and you want to know what you're going through, or you're coming out of it. So just, if any of this is striking a bell, make sure you comment, give us some feedback, let us know what you're thinking as well. And because we really care about having a safe space, negative comments, things that be hurtful for someone to see, or that are going through such a situation as this, will be removed. And it doesn't mean that you can't say what's honest and how you're feeling. We want to encourage honest and openness, but we also want to encourage a healing, supportive environment. And so anything that we think will be deemed, and if you guys think that it's crazy too, feel free to contact us and let us know. We'll take care of that. We want this to be safe.
Absolutely. I just want to say one thing before we end. I just want to make the disclaimer that when we talk about our warning signs of the person that has been victimized, we're not blaming at all, and we don't want the victim blaming, because that doesn't make that it's a safe place. We're just bringing awareness to some of the ways in which we were more vulnerable, and are more vulnerable to this type of personality.
That's a great point.
I just want to make that disclaimer that when we talk about helping you to heal, helping you to identify holes in that armor that we want to patch up so that we will be less vulnerable to the enemy.
Yeah, and as we progress and carry on this channel, we'll talk about how when you recover, or you're recovering from abuse, those who are close to you can also re-victimize you. So there's so much to talk about, because I'm sure if you're getting married, like for me, my family was like, what, do you even know this person? So when you're going through those stuff, a lot of times you're like, I can't tell anyone, because they're going to say I told you so. So we're going to talk about, if you are coming out of that as well and you feel like you can't talk to anyone, how to deal with that. So that's also important to know. So it's a lot of stuff that you're gonna learn here and hear about. So
yep, awesome. Well, thank you all. Remember, comment. Let us know what you think. Share your story if you'd like to. We're going to post the link so you can email us if you'd like to. Get in contact with us. We do have some coaching programs that are being produced. Share, like, subscribe. Put your comments below. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you all next week. Have a good week.
All right.